Mandla to Chingaon. Our rivers, like our temples, face east. Of the great rivers, the Narmada is the only one to flow westwards. Starting from Amarkantak, she makes her way to the west, more or less along the Tropic of Cancer. The further she goes, the more it seems as though she is bending downwards under the weight of water. Yet she maintains her westward route. However, there is one exception. On the way from Amarkantak, instead of coming straight to Jabalpur, the Narmada makes a big southward loop. In the center of this crescent-shaped bend lies Mandla, like an earring adorning her ear. If the Narmada had made such a sweep in the Malwa area, then Indore and Baroda in Gujarat would have been on the river bank. However, Mandla found favor with the Narmada. Our previous journey had been from Jabalpur to Mandla. This time it is from Mandla to Amarkantak. Then there had been 4 companions. Now we are 2, Yadavendra and I. The journey had doubled in length and the travelers halved in number. On 10th October 1978, we set out from Mandla early in the morning. We spent the night in a village. It was noon when we reached Kachari the next day. A farmer and his wife were sitting on a high cliff top above the river. As we approached, the woman called out, "Take your shoes off before you come here, sir." We took off our sandals, climbed up to them and sat down. They were happy to hear about our journey. Both said, "Do stay here today." I explained, "We have to get to Amarkantak by Diwali. The further we go, the better." "In that case," the man said, "stop in Bakachera. My brother-in-law Mansukh lives there. Stay at his house. It's Dasera today. My wife is going to Mandla to see the Dasera procession. You can go along with her. It's the same road half the way. She will tell you the path forward." Finding them friendly, I asked the woman, "Why did you tell us to take off our shoes?" "This is our threshing ground, sir. Our fields and threshing grounds are Lakshmi for us. It is not right to come here with shoes on." Reverence for land runs deep in rural India. To this woman, her field was not a lifeless plot of earth, but the embodiment of a goddess. She was dressing up as she spoke. First, she put on anklets. She labored over her hair parting for a long time. Satisfied with the result, she applied vermilion in the parting with great concentration. Following that, with immense care, she applied a vermilion spot on her forehead, between the eyebrows. Then came the face powder. The sight of a powder compact in that remote place astonished me. She smeared it on liberally. The gentle texture of her skin had looked fine before, but now it was lost in a thick, unflattering layer of powder. The worship of beauty sometimes leads us to the threshold of ugliness. In Bakachera, Mansukh was astounded when we gave him greetings from his brother-in-law. When all was explained, he was very pleased to invite us to stay in his simple hut. There was a chicken coop near my pillow when I went to bed that night. I thought, this will be handy for walking in the morning. Where else could we find a living alarm clock like this? From there to Mogaon, where the Budne river flows into the Narmada. A holy man sat by the river bank. If it's so cold here, I wonder how cold it would be at Amarkantak. I said to him. He replied, Amarkantak is a slice of Badrinath. We carried on along the river bank. In some places it was just like walking on sword blades. Elsewhere it was so overgrown that it was hard to work out which way to struggle through or how to disentangle the creepers. Somehow we reached Manot, and from there Linga, where we stayed overnight at the home of a devout man. In the morning, I saw a ribbon of smoky wisps spreading, swirling over the ground. I realized it was not smoke but water vapor, and that wherever there was water vapor, the Narmada was beneath. The river looked enchanting, wrapped in the misty mantle of fog. At Linga Ghat, the westward tending Narmada veers eastward for a little distance. That is how this part of the river acquired the name Sunflower Stretch. Such places are very rare along the Narmada. An ascetic joined us at Linga. Apart from a shawl and an earthen pot, he possessed nothing. We started talking along the way and he asked, "Tell me, where is the taste? In the tongue or in the gulab jamun?" At my earnest request, he answered the question himself. If the taste is in the gulab jamun, then it should give the taste from the plate itself. And if the taste is in the tongue, then why do we need the gulab jamun? Actually, the taste is neither in the tongue nor in the sweet. It is in the union of the two. Likewise, it is a mistake to pay attention only to the body or the soul. A truly satisfying life combines the two. Well said. As we went on, we met several men and women and inquired, "Where are you going?" "The nursery, to plant trees," came the reply. So, English words like nursery had found their way into this wilderness. Such English words as come easily to the tongue, we should cheerfully adopt as our own. In every language, there are some maverick words that respect no frontiers. Our words like Mahatma, Satyagraha, Yoga, etc. have become an important part of the vocabulary of foreigners. The next village was Kawadongri. I had heard of Mayurbhanj, but a village named after crows was unusual. At Dupata Sangam, where the Dupata river flows into the Narmada, two young girls were bathing. They looked like woodland nymphs, at home in their surroundings. Their mother and father sat on the lofty cliff beyond the river. I asked the man, "Which villages lie ahead?" After some thought, he said, "Chimka Tola, Piparia Tola, Chakadahi." "Do you even know what you are saying?" his wife interrupted. "Chakadahi comes first, Piparia Tola afterwards." "What do I know, sir?" he went on. After Piparia Tola, Chimka Tola, his wife spoke up again. "Chimka Tola comes first." The humble husband repeated, "What do I know, sir?" By now, the two girls had joined their parents. I have forgotten the name of one, but the other I remember even now, Sukarti or Sukirti. What a magnificent name, yet it is hardly ever heard. Some sweet and charming names are simply not used. What a lovely name Reva is, easy to say, delightful to hear. But somehow it never caught on. Narmada remains ever popular. Every morning we would set off around sunrise. We met a hermit who had completed the Narmada pilgrimage. The pilgrimage took 3 years, 3 months and 13 days, he told us. During those days I did not eat any grains, only root vegetables, fruit, milk and curd. And that too only if they were offered. I never asked for food. But what if you didn't get anything? Then mother's milk? I was impressed by the man's pure faith. For him, the water of the Narmada was as sacred as mother's milk. The path along the Narmada's steep, rocky cliff became as thin as a thread in places. We traversed it like tightrope walkers, placing each step with extreme care. We fell in with two tinkers on the way. They collected broken pots and pans in exchange for jaggery. On reaching Piparia Tola, they began to call out, "Exchange your broken utensils for jaggery." We stopped at a Baiga tribal's house to cook lunch. At first, his family was very wary of us. But the moment Yadavendra got the kerosene stove going, first the children and then the women came near. They had never seen a stove like this before. Encouraged by his rapt audience, Yadavendra began to show off its tricks. He played with the heat, making it alternately low and fierce, occasionally adjusting the flame with the pin and then pumping vigorously. The crowd watched, mesmerized. Just as a street entertainer makes a monkey dance, Yadavendra made the stove dance to his tune and gave the Baiga family a grand show. We reached Khapa in the evening. The tinkers had gone on ahead. The ascetics stayed behind. Yadavendra and I looked for shelter until a blacksmith let us stay at his home. And I thought, what better place to stay at than a blacksmith's house in this cold weather? We even slept beside the forge. Whoever woke up in the night put fresh coal on and blew the bellows to keep the forge going. We resumed our journey in the morning. I sat down along the way for a rest and suddenly sprang up. A red ant had bitten me. It was my fault. I should have looked before sitting. From now on, whenever I sit, I will take a good look at the ground first. Whenever the path forked, we were overcome by hesitation. There was no one to ask in that desolate spot. The path near Dokar Ghat was not clearly marked. The path that went up the hill, on the other hand, was a clear trail. We took that one and began climbing the hill. The hillside was desolate and we began to wonder if we had perhaps gone astray. "You sit under this tree. I will go ahead and check out the way," Yadavendra suggested. I looked carefully at the ground before sitting down. No ants of any kind. I became absorbed in sketching. Minutes passed before a strange sound distracted me. I dismissed it as the roar of the Narmada in the distance. But when the sound became louder, I took notice. There was nothing in front of me, but when I looked up, my courage deserted me. Above my head was a circling swarm of honeybees. I panicked and rushed off. Had I been late by a few minutes, I might have been in deep trouble. The bees had built a huge hive in the tree I had been sitting under. I resolved that from now on, before sitting down, I would look down and up. Yadavendra came back and reported that the footpath led into the forest, so we retraced our steps. Some huts were visible a little way on. We found a path from there, and, crossing the Silgi river, continued on our journey through the massive Arjun trees on the riverbank. A hermit's hut appeared ahead. From there onwards, the hermit accompanied us. In Katarai, we stayed at the headman's house. We had just settled in, when a voice was heard, "Exchange your broken utensils for jaggery." The tinkers had arrived too. It was Sarad Purnima. the night of the moon's coronation. But nobody celebrated its glory in the hamlets of this sparsely populated area. I was the only one bathing in the moonlight. As I gazed at the moon, it seemed to me that it was like the idol of Durga. The Creator gradually builds it over a fortnight. On the 15th day, it is enthroned, and then at last, on Amavasya, it meets its end in the blue sky, growing and diminishing, appearing and disappearing in an eternal cycle. We set off the next day in the early twilight. By evening we reached Jaitpuri, a little village gleaming in the rays of the setting sun. The village headman gave us a room to sleep in, but the hermit asked for some straw and slept outside. We felt the chill indoors, even with blankets, while he dozed peacefully out in the open with a single soul. The tinkers went back from here. The hermit went on ahead. Next, we stayed at Mr. Gosai's house in Kanhaiya Sangam. As we insisted on travelling by the Narmada, on the evening of the next day, we ended up in the sort of village where only those who have lost their way would arrive. The village was called Chingaon, a few scattered houses that you could count on your fingers. We were so worn out that we had no energy left to go any further. Yet nobody was prepared to offer us shelter. For some reason, the people there thought we were thieves. Nobody would let us stay, despite my entreaties. In the end, a poor couple allowed us to put our things in their yard. A little later it was nightfall, pitch darkness, an unknown place. Just then 2 men came along, their breath reeking of alcohol. At once they began to interrogate us. Who are you? Where have you come from? Why have you come? We kept trying to explain ourselves in vain. They also tried to upset the people whose yard we were in. How are these people related to you? Why did you give them space in your yard? Who will take responsibility if anything happens at night? Taking our side, the woman in the house retorted, how could we refuse a guest shelter? And they can't be thieves. Thieves don't go around with so much luggage. Thieves snoop around during the day and then return to steal in the night. These poor fellows came in the evening and haven't gone anywhere since. But who can get drunks to understand anything? Gradually, more people came to see what the noise was about. These drunks created an atmosphere in which everyone believed that 2 wicked thieves had come to their village, and if they were not careful, somebody's house would be burgled. A group of people decided it was best to keep watch over us. For the first time in our lives, we slept outside in a strange place in the cold, in an atmosphere of suspicion and fear. There was nothing to do but lie down and keep quiet. We slept fitfully, apprehensive of what might happen as the night progressed. The moon came out after some time, and with it the darkness and dread dissipated somewhat. It was like a familiar friend in that dreadful atmosphere, but sleep still eluded us. Just then, waves of soft, lilting music came drifting through the night. I had never heard such sweet songs before. How tender, how gentle, how natural. In a moment, all my troubles and pains were forgotten. Feelings of neglect and insult vanished. Only the songs and their sweetness remained. In the neighborhood, the village girls had raised their lovely untrained voices in melodious song. They had to keep vigil on us that night. One group would sing a line with light rhythmic clapping, while the other group responded with the second line, punctuated by laughter and giggling, jokes and repartee. How pleasant and dreamlike it all seemed. Never had I experienced a curse turned into a blessing like this. Sometime during the night, the soft music lulled us into a deep sleep.